Hey, Chris Manning here from Locked On Cavs. Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk all about the Collin Sexton extension possibilities in the context of Terry Rozier signing his deal with the Charlotte Hornets. Shaker Heights own, I should note, Terry Rozier. It's all coming up today on Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remind us, check us out wherever you get your podcasts, including WKYC once a week.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Chris Manning here from Locked On Cavs on YouTube. And now that we do that, obviously, please hit the resubscribe button if you're watching, because we did something dumb. Evan tried to blame it on me because he tries to blame everything on me.
Listen. We quite literally had a phone call to walk ourselves through what happened on our end, because I had to meet with Doug Branson on my own initially yesterday. Then something came up. And then I explained to Doug today before you connected on the call. I said, Chris said he followed your procedure and we didn't notice the change. But yeah, we goofed. It was a we thing, but it's just easier for me to blame Chris because I use deflection and bullying as a defense mechanism, because I was bullied as a child.
Yeah, Evan decides I'm just going to be mean to someone instead of going to therapy. The things dudes do to not go to therapy.
Bro, I go to therapy twice a month.
You know, I'm just joshing with you.
Therapy's healthy. I'm medicated. I self-love. Right. I'm pretty good with myself right now.
Yeah, that's true. But Evan, you have some news.
I do.
So I'm going to put you on the clock. You have 2 minutes to explain this, and then we're moving on, and we'll refer to your new thing as now on. Instead of redacted, people can know what it is. You could have paid me $1 this whole time, and I would have taken the bribe and violated Evan's NDA. It would have been great. And anyone could have just cash at me $1 at any time, and I would have 100% just done it, because I'm 2 minutes on the clock. Evan, explain your news, and we'll get into today's show.
So I am covering the Cleveland Cavaliers and Cleveland sports as a whole for Facebook News through their bulletin service, which is similar to Substack or any email publication newsletter service. It's called Write Down Euclid. It is in my bio. It is pretty much my branding on Twitter for going forward. It's all over the place, but it's been a pretty surreal experience. I was going to announce it back in July. If you were an Eagle Eater, or I guess, I don't know what the best listening creature is, but either way, if you're a tune-in listener, I had to have Chris go in and scrub out portion of the episode because I shared these details back in July. So it's been a long 2 months. I've been waiting a long time to share this. It feels like a huge load off my chest. I can stop saying redacted in all of our descriptions in my Twitter bio and everything. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. Just going to be making Cleveland the center focus on a national stage, because my pitch to them was, I'm sick of Cleveland being the butt of every joke and every punchline and for every national joke out there. So hopefully I can make it a little better for everybody else.
So when does the Social Network 2 about your rise and fall come out? When is the Fincher biopic dropping?
I don't know, but who do you think would play me in the biopic? I see you biting your tongue. I feel like you're going to insult me.
Well, no, because you asked me this once before, because I've made this joke in a text, and you did not like my answer, despite that person being an incredible actor who should have been nominated for an Oscar for their starring role in Uncut Gems. And I'm obviously talking about Mike Francesa. That's not who I'm actually talking about, but
I know who you're talking about. Hubie Halloween himself, Adam Sandler. Unless you mean Kevin Garnett, and I'm like, Chris, wow, you have me completely miscast here in your brain.
By the way, did you see? I don't know if you read this. There was enough. We're really getting into today's show tonight. And in all seriousness, I'm very happy for you. I'm very excited to see what you do with this, and can't wait to continue to make fun of you at all costs, including that I did in the Bestie Squad chat. But second shout out for that. You should pay us money.
Second shout out to the Bestie shout out chat. Ashley Bastock, come on the show sometime.
Pay us money on the show. Because we're broke. I'm broke. But Did you see in the Athletic, John Krasinski was writing about the Wolves trade stuff, and he was like, Juancho Hernan-Gomez got excused from going to training camp because during like their COVID training camp last year because he was like going to film an Adam Sandler movie.
No, I did not know.
This was like a nugget in the story, and I've been thinking about it all day.
Did you just learn this today, or did you?
Yeah, this was like I read this today.
Oh, okay.
I read this today, and that's all I've been thinking about. Because like, why Juancho?
Why not Juancho? I mean, he was a trade option for me with the Cavs, and we were talking about center depth for a while.
Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Collin Sexton's extension. Evan, let's just start here because I think we can cover this in the like next 4 or so minutes before we head into break. I think there's a pretty obvious reason why. I would say that the reasoning why like there wasn't an extension, like right out of the gate when he became eligible this offseason, and then why it looked like there wasn't going to happen, and why now like one maybe seems more possible to get done before media day or like at the beginning of training camp. There's a pretty clear like reasons why that is the case. I want to see what you think the reasons are, and then see if we agree here.
Well, I can say off the top, because I don't know if it'll be the title, but OnlyFans cannot pay Collin Sexton the max. So another sex worker cannot be paid by their OnlyFans. But other than that, I think it's the Cavs playing hardball a little bit. I think there was genuine trade interest. I can tell you for a fact. I've said this on Twitter, but I'll say this on here too. The Cavs weren't actively shopping Collin, but it would be remiss of them not to hear offers from teams. I know the Knicks and the Heat were seriously interested. I know Oklahoma City was pretty interested too because they were intrigued with his pairing alongside Shea. But I think the Cavs asking price is a little too high, and the problem is the trade market isn't as robust as some people may think because you have to find a team that's willing or at least comfortable to extend Collin. And then you look at that and you factor that into play, and the Cavs don't really have to rush because they have one last year on his rookie deal besides this one, so they can let this drag out all the way out to the extension deadline, and then if something doesn't come to fruition, they flip him at the trade deadline, or they let him test the waters of restricted free agency next offseason. So all the balls are in the Cavs' court. I think they're just saying like, hey, let's figure out how much Collin Sexton's worth on the trade market right now. I think the results and the returns were kind of underwhelming, and his camp
we should say CAA, very powerful agency.
They're a very powerful agency, but Dennis Schroeder is the name I heard a lot when it came to Collin's extension talks, where Dennis gambled on himself and he signed for quite a lot less money than he was making at the Lakers last year, this year at the Celtics. And now Collin's camp is fearing that if they let this drag out and they let the Cavs let him test the waters and let him get to that point, he may not get paid as much as he wants because there's not really a demand for a player like Collin because he has a unique skill set and he's very talented at what he does, but you have to build some pieces around him in order to make him succeed. And that's where the issues in themselves lie because you have to pay more money for those pieces than you do Collin. It's a lot of messy stuff. We can talk about it more, but that's just kind of why I think we're hearing this talk pop back up. That and the Knicks and the Heat kind of spent their entire reserve of cash. Like the last Knicks move is to finalize the Julius Randle extension, and they'll head into the next season pretty much the same team. And then the Heat went big name spending on Kyle Lowry and everybody else. So it is what it is at this point. Like if the Cavs will figure it out, if they don't, they trade them.
Yeah, I just tend to think that the names you saw floated the second things were really like the Knicks are the CAA NBA franchise. The Heat are a team that like are a good organization in a good market, so it's like you're gonna try and like publicly push your client there. Like even if like I don't deny that the interest is real, but like that's the public posturing you're doing. You're forgetting those leaks. Like that is.
Oh no, that and the Heat thing is Jimmy Butler's a big Collin Sexton fan. Like after Collin had that big game against Miami, like Jimmy sought him out after the game to congratulate him. And yeah, he fucked with Collin's ponytail and stuff, but Jimmy told the Heat, like, listen, if I could play with a kid like Collin Sexton, I'd be pretty happy. But
at the same time, let's get Kyle Lowry because he's a better.
We need adults in the room to win a championship.
We need like a championship medal proven point guard to complete our roster. Like that is what you do, and like I can't blame them then for the Knicks. Like I can't blame them for going the way they did. Like they got Kemba on a really, really friendly deal. Like it's going to be a little cheaper. Like you're like all the things these teams did instead of like trading picks and then having to pay Collin Sexton a lucrative extension, like make a lot of sense to me. And I think the Schroeder thing is apt. It's like there's the teams that were like likely Collin destinations don't have the money. I think if you're him, I think you'd like to just like not have to risk like a really bad free agency market next summer, right? Like maybe you could sign like a very like thing to get you to open free agency earlier if you really needed to do that. But like I think you'd rather like time and time again, what do players do? And as they should, they take the guaranteed money when they can get it, and it's about signing those kind of deals at the right time. And I think you see the Schroeder thing, and it's like okay, like that's where we are. And I think months ago, I think Collin and his camp kind of thought they were going to get a lot of money. I don't know if the full max was ever realistic, but I think a lot of money was going to be on the table, and they were kind of hoping to push for that.
Yeah.
Didn't come to fruition.
That's what we always said. He said he wasn't going to get the max. He was going to get very close to the max, though.
Yeah. And then you look at what's happened. I think you read the tea leaves. You see how things are kind of going to work with the offense. I think they're going to give Darius a big extension. And I frankly think it's fair if you're the Cavs to like look at this and say, okay, like we need to see a full year and a more normal year and to see what Darius and Collin look like together before we spend any money. I don't think that's an unrealistic thing from a team building perspective. I just don't think that is. Like I think Collin is going to have a good NBA career, and it could be like end up being better than the two. So like it's not out of the question. But I think that the idea that like you have to like you have to be very careful if you're Cleveland at this point in your rebuild. If you're looking at this from a team perspective, you have to be very careful at this point in where you are. But Evan, we got to take a break. We got to pay some bills.
Speaking of getting paid, we have to pay some bills.
That's darn right. We're going to tell everyone about our friends at BetOnline. It's that time of year again, and all of our eyes are now turning to football as teams are back on the gridiron to start the football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Get all the updated odds, props, and contests, including the $500,000 NFL Mega Contest and the $200,000 NFL Survivor Contest that are now open at BetOnline. Head to their website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. Be sure to take advantage of their opening day super promo, which is making a bet on the Thursday, September 9th season opener between the Super Bowl champion Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys. And if you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports, from football to basketball to boxing to horse racing and everything else. Don't wait and take advantage of all the great offers available for the 2021 season with promo code LOCKEDON. That's BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. And again, the promo code is LOCKEDON. All right, Evan. So I think for Collin, the next step is seeing like, okay, like let's perhaps get a deal done. You can still negotiate these things. I think if you're Cleveland, there's a range I think you would feel comfortable with. But I want to let's talk about the Terry Rozier of this all, because he signed an extension with the Charlotte Hornets on Thursday. 4 years, $97 million, the max he could have gotten from Charlotte. A little bit of sticker shock for a lot of people. I think people got to remember, number one, I just want to congratulate guys for getting money. I don't really care about billionaires, like, and the money they spend. Like, guys should just get the maximum amount of money they should get. Like, I don't really, like, I just am so just like, I would like guys to get paid more than anything else. And then secondly, I think this is a thing for Collin that helps him, because I think, like, if you're him, something akin to that or more than that, I think, is what you're getting for. I don't think you're getting a 5-year. What I do think is kind of the move here is ultimately going to be, okay, can I get a deal that's going to give me a little more than Rozier and say, look, like maybe Rozier is better than me right now, has been a more reliable volume 3-point shooter, has had bigger clutch moments, etc. Just a more proven NBA player, but he's older. I'm going to get better. You know me. You know my work ethic. You know my year-to-year improvements have always kind of happened. Bet on me. Pay me more than that over, let's say, like 4 years, $100 million, 4 years, 105, somewhere in that range to me makes sense. And I understand if there's still a little bit of sticker shock for people, but I don't think that deal is like crazy to me. And I think the Rozier thing sets a little bit of the market, right now for a Collin that I thought maybe like the De'Aaron Fox extension did a year ago.
No, I absolutely agree. And I think it's funny to say we're talking about the De'Aaron Fox extension. Now we're talking about the Terry Rozier extension. And I think I'm more comfortable if you can give Collin that type of money, if you can say to him, okay, if we look at your shot chart your shot profile and how your anatomy of your shot chart goes, if you take more threes and you're a little bit more trigger happy from the perimeter like a Rozier, instead of, long twos or maybe taking like uncontested mid-range pull-ups and everything else, like we're seeing his evolution in real time. Like you said, like, yes, he has stepped back from behind the 3-point line his rookie year. Yes, in his sophomore season. And in his third season, we're seeing him draw more contact to get to the free throw line more consistently and use that ability of his game. Like, he's becoming a 3-level scorer who's very multifaceted in terms of that. But There's obviously deficiencies and flaws in his game that I don't think are going to improve. A lot of it might be schematic stuff too, and also just how the Cavs are team building as well.
Let me. What makes you think what are the things about Collin's game that you don't think are going to improve, and why do you think they won't? Because I think when you and I talk about Collin, that is one of the things that we, like, I think tend to get like pushback on is sort of how we talk about him and like assuming that he's going to be the same. So like, let's dive into this a little bit. Like, what do you think is a thing that Collin is not going to improve at for X, Y, and Z?
I don't think he's going to become like a super high like a super high playmaker. Like, he's going to make the easy reads. He's going to make the easy dump offs. Jared Allen makes his life easier. Evan Mobley will naturally make his life easier as dump offs and a pick and roll and a pick and pop scenario. As long as Mobley becomes a more consistent shooter, I think when I was deep diving into his 3-point shooting numbers, it raised an eyebrow at the percentage, but also it's summer league, so I can't hold too much stock in that. Defensively, I think one-on-one he's going to get bullied because he's going to be playing 2. I think he should be a combo guard that plays more of a 1 and has to face on 1s. You could hide him against other 1s in defensive scenarios because I think teams
you want him out. Like you want him as like a point of attack guy that's like using his like strength and using his size, and then like Darius is off ball in theory. Okay.
Yep. If the Cavs are so hell-bent and determined to stick to this smaller backcourt, they need to experiment a little bit to make sure it's not so disadvantageous for Collin on the defensive side of the ball. But like, because like that's what I was trying to preface. Like, a lot of it's schematic and team building stuff too. Because if you're a regular listener to this show, if you're checking out for the first time, I'll just reiterate: I'm not a huge fan of the small backcourt. I think in theory, yeah, both of these players are fun, but like individually, but together, I think it's just a little bit tougher. It's good to have them to have on-court experience with one another, sure, and have that level of comfort with each other. But I don't think it's good for the development of the rest of this roster. But that's a story, an argument for another day. But if Collin can I just don't think we're going to see like huge leaps where he's like, oh, he's going to suddenly be averaging 8.5, 9 assists a night or something like that. I just think the biggest thing for him is
that would blow me away if he ever did that.
Absolutely. But I think like 4.5, 5 at his peak in terms of playmaking and assists a game, like that's not unheard of or unexpected for me. But I don't expect him to have huge playmaking nights either because, granted, some of it is the quality of his teammates, but at this time it's put up or shut up because there's some quality options on Cleveland's roster for Collin to kind of get involved in the offense as well. So if we just remove those subsections of his game and focus at what he's good at, that's getting buckets, he can improve his shot profile by taking more threes. If he takes a Rozier-like volume like that, like, yeah, get top dollar as soon as you can. And I think 25 million over 4 is to be 100 million, and 105 over 4, which I don't know the math off the top of my head. I think that's 26 point. No, it's 27 million, isn't it? 108. Yeah. Your mic's dead, Chris.
So like if it's 100, it would be like if he got 100, that would be 25, and then if it's like 105, it would be like 26. Like it's a lot. It's a good amount of money. I want to talk about the cap sheet going forward, kind of after this. But I think I would just say that the things that I feel like there are 2 things in his sort of existence that I think are very fixable. They are, I think, as much on the coaching staff as they are on him. Like, this is where, like, the JB Bickerstaff of it all gets kind of complicated. And I'm not anti-mid-range, but here's the thing. Collin Sexton, for what he is, I don't think he's going to be, like, your lead option on a good team. Like, I think as you're kind of developing Evan Mobley and Garland and everything, like, you can lean on him a little more than you might want to in theory. And he certainly has had to do more than you would think because of, like, the Kevin Love of it all, which we're going to talk about a little bit, for at least I am in the next segment. But last year, cleaning the glass, he's 22. There's still room to grow here, and there's reason to believe that he should be able to change this. But in all of his 3 years, here are his percentage of his shots that are 3-point attempts. Year 1, when he really struggled to take threes, 23%. Year 2, 22%. Last year, 22%. Last year, when he's kind of more of a combo guard as Darius kind of emerged, that is in the bottom 6% of combo guards according to Cleveland Glass. 44% of his shots, came in the mid-range. That is in the 93rd percentile of combo guards. He gets a lot of more shots at the rim, takes a lot of shots in the short mid-roll. He has a little bit of like this like runner floater shot that's kind of nice. Like the 3-level score thing, I think is real. I think that is just like an easy fix. It's like take more threes, take some more catch and shoot threes. Like know when like you have that open shot. There are just like for whatever reason, if you go to his NBA.com stats page, there's just each of the last 2 seasons, there's just been like a 3-week to 4-week stretch where like he just struggles to shoot, and I can't explain why it happens. He just goes into like a really detailed slump and like then gets really hesitant to shoot. It really like warps some of like this. I don't really understand what it is. I don't know if it's like just a thing you're always going to have, but it's just something that always has happened. I think the second thing defensively is like his ability to like navigate screens has just never been particularly good. He's a very like linear defender where he's just trying to go like from point A right to point B, and he's not always navigating the screens. Like he needs to kind of get better at that to kind of maximize his ability. And like he has the motor and the gasting to do it. That is like a thing that Collin Sexton should be able to do, because that guy's energy level is like I would bet you if you had to do a Miami Heat style conditioning test among the current Cavs players, I bet you he would do the best. And it'd be him or Isaac Okoro. And like I have no doubt in my mind that it's one of those two guys that would absolutely do best in the test, because those are the two kind of workout freaks on the team. So Collin, like I think kind of is both in this place where I think what his archetype is sort of clear to me, but there's also just little tweaks where it's like, okay, like this guy could score 20 points in the league for a long time, and like that's a useful player. And I think it's just the little tertiary stuff that makes me wonder. Evan, as I think we'll talk about in the next segment, I also just think the Cavs are in a spot right now where, like, as much as I think there is some angst from the organization, I think certainly from the fan base to maybe make a leap next season, you are still betting on your future, right? Like, Evan Mobley is not going to, like, he may be, like, really good in year one. Like, maybe he's even better than we think. But there's a world where, like, he realistically needs to add muscle and take some time.
He'll be better than Jonathan Kuminga, I'll say that much.
Okay, but like I think he needs to be this guy that's going to take some time to add muscle, right? Like Darius is still in year 3, Collin is still in year 4, Jared Allen's like the vet of the young group, and he's 23 years old. Like this isn't an old group. Like this is a group that has some growing pains to go through, and that includes Collin. Even though he's in year 4, even though he's coming up for money, your second contract is ultimately also betting on your future. And you're betting that this contract is going to look good by the end of it. When you're, or it'd be year 2 or year 3, when like he's going to be like closer to, he's like 22 years old at the end of last season, when he's like 24, 25 years old. And that's still really, really young. But Evan, we got to take a break. We'll come back and talk about some of this going forward. But you got to tell everyone about our friends at Rock Auto.
That is correct. This episode of Locked On Cavs is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. They're a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto's prices are reliably low and are for every customer. They have everything you need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today and find a solution for your auto parts needs. So if you're interested, go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Check them out today at rockauto.com.
Also want to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar is celebrating the freedom of choice because they have so many delicious flavors. There's something for everyone. When you talk to a Built Bar fan, let's say Evan Dammarell from Bulletin, cookies and cream is a favorite of his. I think he loves the grasshopper cookie. Grasshopper cookie also on your list? Okay, look at that. Just 2 awesome flavors for Evan. My favorite flavor right now might be the strawberry. It tastes like a chocolate-covered strawberry. I had one today, and it was super good. If you haven't tried all the flavors, you can get a mixed box or get 2 of each of the 9 flavors if you want to just, again, try them all. Look, the macros on these are great too. 17 to 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbohydrates. That is all amazing flavors, all tasty, and all extremely healthy. Order today and get that grasshopper cookie, that cookies and cream, or whatever it is that you like. And remember, Built Bar is the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Okay, so Evan, when you look at the Cavs like future roster, Jared Allen obviously has his extension locked in. Collin is the next one up. You have Darius will be extension eligible a year from now. Isaac Okoro a year after that. You have obviously a second contract for Evan Mobley is not even something we should be really discussing now. Nah. The other part of this is that, okay, so Kevin Love, 2 years left on his contract, assuming anything doesn't happen. Larry Nance, 2 years left on his contract, 10.6 this year, 9.6 the year after. You have Jetty Osman for the next 2 seasons until he has a non-guaranteed season. You have, the cap is sort of the roster is in a lot of ways like sort of like open beyond a couple slots. Like Sexton and all these guys are coming eligible, but like who knows what's going to happen with Windler. Dotson's in the last year of his deal, and it's a non-guarantee in his deal this year. Dean Wade is non-guaranteed and stuff like that. Like you have these things that we don't really know if these numbers are even like applicable. The only one we really have is Jared Allen at $20 million, and then Kevin Love as like the other big ticket player, as long as he's on the roster for now. So I guess when you're looking at this future roster, let's just assume Collin gets let's say 4 years, 110. Let's just pencil in a little bit on the higher end there.
Okay.
I guess like what do you make of like where the Cavs will be in terms of building out this roster with that locked in, with Allen locked in, and then with the other stuff coming done? Like, what do you make of where we're at right now? Do you feel like you know enough? I guess is my question.
No, I don't, because you have to look at the grand scheme of things too. Let's say you have Collin locked in, you have Jarrett locked in, you have Kevin as an albatross around your neck in terms of this cap space. Larry Nance Jr. is technically locked in. I think he's extension eligible next year as well, so you have to factor that in.
And I would think he would take like a pretty reasonable contract.
Yeah.
Like, does he want like a modest pay raise? Does he want to take another deal that like pays him more up front? Like there are questions that we don't know the answer to at this point in time. And and by the time Larry's deal is up, he'll be 2023 at the end of that. He'll be like 30 years old. Do his priorities from a basketball standpoint change? Like, does he want to go compete for a title if the Cavs are not ready for that then? Like, or if they flounder the next 2 seasons, like, does he just say like, look, I love it here. I love the city. I want to go play winning basketball. Like, I wonder if that is there are just a lot we don't know in terms of what the Cavs actually are.
Be interesting to see if he has a reverse career arc of his dad's and he finishes his career with Phoenix. But back to what I was saying, Darius is extension eligible next offseason, as you know. Isaac is down the line, but that's like a lot of this is the Cavs betting on themselves and believing in the players they've drafted, the player development staff they have, and the coaching staff that they have assembled. And these pieces that they put together can be united and become a cohesive team and a cohesive unit. And I always circle back to this question about a listener who called in and asked, what if Evan Mobley's a draft bust? I'm like, yeah, what if? Like, there's always going to be a gamble. There's always going to be a risk in basketball. But this is a pretty hefty financial gamble on the Cavs' part. If they want to lock in all their money to all these young pieces and not maybe kick the can down the road a little bit so they can maintain a little bit of cap flexibility. But, at the same time, I'm also of the argument where what is a team like Cleveland going to do with cap space because they aren't a free agent destination if they have to build internally through the draft?
Yeah, but I think Memphis has shown us that even if you're going to try to still be okay and competitive and even if you're willing to take a small step back with your young team, having cap flexibility and malleability in your roster construction allows you to add extra stuff to then fuel your roster growth when you're going to need to. When John Morant extension kicks in, when Jaren Jackson's contract, there's that stuff that's going to happen. But I think the thing with Cleveland that makes it a little bit different than that is I don't think any of the guys that the Cavs have are max contract guys.
Oh, right? Absolutely not. Darius Garland is not. Isaac Okoro is not.
Nope. Darius is
we don't know what Evan Mobley is.
Well, Mobley, we don't know what he is, and if Okoro would have to have just a bonkers 2-year run to kind of get in that conversation. Darius is the one where if he is absolutely bonkers this year, I think I would expect him if he has a bonkers year this year, I kind of think he might. Then I think him getting more than Collin feels likely-ish to me.
You've been talking to Justin Rowan on the side or something?
No, I think every time I've talked to Justin, basically it's in our little chat where I shared something with you.
Secret.
We have a lot of chats.
Oh, we do.
I talk to you a lot. I don't think people understand how much you and I just are communicating and vibing all the time.
I know. But I don't think. If you see something, what constitutes bonkers for Darius?
I don't even want to say bonkers. I don't even know how to define it. I'm just saying I'm looking at their cap sheet right now, and it's yes, Allen's making 20, and Collin might be getting 25 plus, and blah blah blah. They don't have a guy that's going to eat up a significant portion of the cap, and it would also be an interesting reality for them to be in a spot where they actually pay all the young guys, because that almost never happens.
No, it doesn't.
That doesn't really happen, and I don't know if
gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet.
Look what they've cited Atlanta and Phoenix as examples, and both those teams
we're
Atlanta
flush with cash.
Yes, but Atlanta more
Suns,
drastically.
Yeah, go ahead.
Atlanta more drastically was hey, let's just get some vets. right? Like Phoenix hit on stuff that was a little different. Like Book obviously had time to develop. They had Ayton. Cam Thomas was an unexpected successful pick. Like they had stuff that really propelled them.
Jay
I guess
Crowder
like,
being like one of the best additions any
yeah,
team
like a
can
really
make.
like a really good one of like the only good mid-level signings last summer. Like the Cavs are just in the spot where it's like, okay, like Kevin's contract comes off the books right
Eventually.
as well, like so let's just say in theory, like I don't think this is gonna happen. Let's say he's on the Cavs at 2023. He's like 35 years old. That would be bizarre. Darius Garland's rookie skill extension will not have even kicked in yet.
Nope.
So like you're gonna have this go into 2023 where like right now the only contracts on the books are as follows. That like not including a Collin deal. Jared Allen's at $20 million. Evan Mobley has a third-year team option for 8.8. And Isaac has an extension, has a fourth-year rookie option for $8.9 million. That is like Lamar Stevens has a small guarantee that year. Jetty Osman has a 6.7 non-guarantee for that year. Okay. So like there is like technically a little bit of other money, but like they have kind of like it's these 2 years where like they kind of maybe would want to add vets right now and they can't, but if they want to and they have the money and they're 2 years from now things look good and they have money then like they may be able to do what they've kind of talked about wanting to do 2 years from now, depending on what these guys kind of get. It's just like a weird cap. It's just like a very weird cap situation.
Oh yeah, it's a super weird cap space. It's kind of a bummer to look at. Like a lot of this comes back to the Kevin Love extension. A lot of it comes back to the Kevin Love extension. If it wasn't there, I'd be like, okay, this makes a lot more sense to me. But you have an oft-injured 30 guy on the wrong side of 30 who does not want to be here but is practically untradeable, and I think they're going to hit a stalemate in buyout talks based on what I've heard lately. But I think it's going to happen sooner or later. But then we see what they do with that too. Do they just take the hit for the next 2 years, or do they stretch it and make it the equivalent of like a mid-level exception based on how much money Kevin's willing to give back?
Do you light money on fire even more than you already have? Like it's like, you know what I mean? It's like it's a tough situation, and like again, like they are going to be in this position where flexibility comes to them in short order. The Collin extension, if it ends up, to round this out, to kind of finish talking about Collin, I think if it ends up being like 110 or in that 105 to 110 range, like, I don't think that's like a bad deal for the team. I really don't. I think that is a good deal for a building block, a guy you have believed in and have pushed.
Do you think he's better than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
No.
Okay, because a lot of people are upset because Shai got a max extension almost immediately, and Collin hasn't gotten anything.
Shai is like a potential like friend. Like I understand that people like love Collin. I think he's really good. I think he's been really good for the franchise. All that stuff. Shai is this like 6'5" like super creator who like could have been an all-star last year, barring some injury stuff. Like that's a really like I think he's just a tier above Collin. And defensively is like light years ahead of what Collin is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But Collin is like this really good young scorer, and like he just remains like a for people for whatever reason there's an incredibly polarizing thing for I think like very few logical reasons.
Well, people just want to stake their claim in him and say he's the face of the franchise and all these other things. And
well, the Cavs also nominated him for like 10 bajillion Player of the Week awards.
Yeah, but I think with Evan Mobley in tow and Darius Garland kind of coming out last year, and maybe they're ceding the offense to him a little bit more next year based on what we've both heard. I think Collin's just going to be what we've always thought. He's going to be a very nice complimentary player. He's going to be paid well because you have to pay a little extra for a player to stay in Cleveland, but I don't think he's going to get paid like max dollar, but he's going to be paid handsomely, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's a Cavalier based on what I've said, or heard, I should say, and said. And at this point, I'd be surprised if he's traded, but I wouldn't rule out anything because the Cavs are a very tight-lipped organization, too. They don't really talk about their moves. They're like lasagna. These G's move in silent, so.
Evan, any final thoughts as we go into the weekend?
It's time's a flat circle. Freddie Kitchens is coaching in Cleveland, and we're talking about how much Collin Sexton is worth in an extension, so the vicious circling of the drain that is Cleveland sports never ends, baby.
It's true. But that's going to be it. Again, subscribe again on YouTube. I'm just apologizing on behalf of Evan and I. We messed it up somehow. But go to our YouTube, subscribe. Please smash that subscribe button and put that notification bell on. And I'm going to go be Jason Sudeikis on the cover of GQ and just get in some dope-looking clothes and scream and be Ted Lasso. That's all.
There you go. Good stuff, man. All right, guys. Have a good weekend. See you Monday.